Strength in Leos.
How's it going, everybody? It's Evan back with the Strength in Leos podcast. Super excited to be back to bring you guys a super awesome guest. Wanted these guys to be on the podcast for a while now. So welcome Stephen and Ashley from Focus Cube Habitats. How's it going, guys?
Good.
All is well.
Nice. I'm glad we're finally able to get a time that worked for both of us and get you guys on, because you guys are producing some amazing things over there with those cages.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's just go. I'm like, I don't know when we can do this, but I'm like, we barely got home, just slammed in here at the last second and made it happen. So
sweet.
We're here.
So just in a typical day, like what does that look like for you guys? Like going to the shop, creating cages, orders, all those kind of things.
Well, it usually starts around 5 in the morning. I take care of my crested gecko collection. Which is, I don't know. I don't count them. Cause it's always changing with different hatchlings and everything. But probably around 50 or so, not a huge, group of animals, but not insignificant either. So I start the day with them, 1.5 hours to 2 hours with them. Then we take care of all the other animals, which we have probably, I don't know, 30 more.
Yeah, probably
between snakes and monitors and everything. So we do all of our animal keeping in the morning, make sure they're all taken care of, water's changed, cleaning their enclosures, feeding. And then usually we get to the shop about 9 or so. And then that's when all the magic starts to happen.
Well, it starts on the way there. I mean, usually, on the way there, we're trying to do emails and stuff. So everything's on a phone now. So your whole office is on your cell phone. So, I mean, you've got emails, you've got messages, you start going through that stuff, trying to, help people you can quickly. So if it's just an easy answer, you send them something. But usually if somebody needs a quote for something or needs some more detailed dimensions on something, we'll kind of make note of that stuff. And as soon as we get to the shop, we'll open everything up and we'll try and, go through all those things. And if I can quote something real quick, or if I need to check, what size is the rear wall so I can build a background, I'll go send them the dimensions or whatever. And we'll kind of roll from there. So, once we get there, it's basically flipping the lights on, firing up all the equipment. I mean, you got air compressors, CNCs. I mean, you got all the drill stuff that needs to be kind of organized and aligned. And, then we just start kind of going through. If we have new orders, she'll enter all that stuff.
Yeah, secretarial stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you do all your kind of paperwork stuff in the morning. If you need to order stuff, you just start doing all that. And, once you're through there, equipment's hot and ready, and you start loading plastic on and you start cutting stuff.
And then it just goes until
and then and it's a blur, and then we leave. So something happens in between, and then it's over.
Then you just repeat it the next day.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a cycle. Yeah, every day's kind of it's the same but different. I mean, every day is its own new challenge, but it's like you kind of get a rhythm going. But there's a lot of little problems in between you get to solve. So. A lot of the stuff we do is fairly custom. So each day is kind of unique. It's like you might order a particular, like a ratio model is our 4x2x2. It's very rare we build 2 of them the same way. So even though it's a standard model, each one of them is its own, figuring out components and accessories and colors and windows, no windows, all that stuff. So you get to kind of
heating, lighting. We got UVB LEDs.
Everyone is different, so it's not like you get ever into like a rhythm where you're doing the same thing over and over. It's like a lot of gear shifting, figuring out what you got to do next. So it's paying attention to a lot of little stuff.
Right. And just like you mentioned, a lot of the stuff that you guys, pretty much all the stuff you guys do is super custom. And to have that and also have really low lead times is also super rare to have in a company. How did you guys just figure out to get that lead time super, super low? Because some companies, it's like 6-month lead time for some of these enclosures. So how have you guys been able to navigate that?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean,
that's a great question.
Yeah. It depends. It's funny too. Like lead times, it depends what you think is quick and what you think is slow. Like some manufacturers are like you say, 6 months or plus out, and that's a long time. Some people are, 10 weeks out, and that's a long time. Some people are 4 weeks out, and that's a long time. It just depends who you ask and what you're trying to, produce. I think for a company like us, like just her and I, we're super agile. So you just have to kind of realize that every day is going to be a new day. So when you get there, you need to be kind of prepared to make adjustments to whatever you think your schedule is going to be, and cut the parts you need, have the stock on hand, which is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
You need to have all the different components, like you say, colors, all the different hardware. Just stocking windows and stuff. We do a lot of Exoterra tops or replacement tops for Exoterras that are like the Dart Frog version, and just keeping like screens and windows and stuff on a shelf is super difficult. So you have to kind of guesstimate what people are going to order, right? You do a little forecasting, and then you're way wrong and you're a little behind, and you just keep cutting stuff. So what saved our butt a lot is having a machine, equipment that's capable of being agile with us. So it's not something you have to set up uniquely each time. It's if you've got your CAD program right, if you can operate the software and you can make the changes you need on the fly, you push the magic button and you make that thing work. So that's a huge part of it, is having the right equipment.
Nice. So before we get just too far into everything, how did you guys have this idea, get started, and decided to create focus tube habitats?
Well, that's mostly okay. So I've been keeping reptiles since the mid '90s, and we actually met in kindergarten. Well, not
really?
met, but we've known each other basically since kindergarten. And I was the weird girl at recess that had found a toad while all the other school children were watching. And while the toad was peeing, he watched on, because we were actually, we lived very close together. I lived in a neighborhood and he lived basically kind of across the street in some land that was like still back in the, mid 90s, early 90s. There was actually, like land available here around Texas that wasn't in a neighborhood. And he was like, this girl's really strange.
Yeah, that's a long story for she was holding a peeing amphibian, and I thought it was super gross. So I came around the corner, and of course, when you're like, I don't know, 6 or something, there's this girl just, brandishing a peeing animal at people. I'm like, this girl, something is wrong. And then, many years later, we meet again and become friends, and then, you get married, you're moved in, and you're working normal jobs. And then the whole COVID thing happened. And, I was working at a motorcycle dealership. I was doing the finance stuff there. She was, intelligently, gainfully employed at a car dealership.
Yep.
And one day, the COVID thing happened and they said, go home, you're not going to get paid. We don't know what's going on. It's going to be, 2 weeks of you sitting around. Good luck. And, I was like, okay. So a few weeks before that, or a month or two, I guess, before that, I bought a little bitty CNC machine. I mean, this thing was
small.
like 30 inches by 30 inches. It could hardly cut anything, but I was playing with, parts and pieces of material, trying to figure out how to learn it. And I was cutting PVC because it was soft. You can hardly screw it up. I mean, you're not going to destroy your equipment. And, she had a few animals. I was like, well, I'll make a box for them. This looks easy, which is what everybody says. And you immediately realize it's super hard. I screwed up over and over and over and over. And so it made me mad. So I kept trying over and over and over. And every time it got a little better and a little better. And then I finally managed to make something that resembled a legitimate enclosure. And at that time, she was vending, reptile shows. So I was like, I'll take a couple of them and I'll see if somebody buys them. This will be hilarious. I'll see what happens. And we took a couple and people bought them and I couldn't believe it. And then, we've like, let's make a website and see if people buy them on the internet. That's even more crazy. And then people started to buy them on the internet and it got out of control. And that's when I was still working a full-time job, trying to keep up with, random online orders for like 24
March
cubes
2020
and stuff. Yeah. And then, like you said, they sent us home from work and they're like, we don't know what's going on. It's 2 weeks. You can't come back. And that's when I realized, dude, it doesn't matter where you work. You have like no guarantee at all that you're ever going to be employed. So I'm like, why don't I just do my own thing and, work for myself? So, I quit and I went home and I thought, I'll machine a couple enclosures a day. I'll have them built, assembled. I'll get them packed, shipped out by 2:00 and I'll be, napping by 3. And that did not happen. It just got so crazy. I couldn't do it myself. I kept trying and trying. Ashley would help me in the morning before she went to work. She would help me at night when she got home from work. And we were, cutting stuff in our garage and assembling it in our dining room. And it just got so out of hand. I'm like, either I have to stop doing this or you have to quit. And she quit her job and we just have been doing this ever since. So we moved from our garage to a shop. And then that shop was too small 8 months into being there. So then we moved to a shop twice the size. We've been there for, a year and a half or so, and it's way too small, but
Yeah.
we're trying to make everything we can happen in the space that we have. So
We're
it's
getting
been,
more efficient.
oh no, yeah, you can eke out a lot of efficiency, but we're, it's not like this was a master plan and I'm like, I can run a business. I know how to manufacture stuff. Let's just see if it works. It's just every day we learn something new on the fly every single day.
Big learning experience.
So you just wake up and you just try and you hope it works, and every day keeps going.
Yeah. I love how you guys just talk about all this so nonchalantly. It's like, yeah, we just quit our jobs and wake up at 5:30 and
yeah, you
do all this
build up
stuff.
a resilience. I mean, I don't know, like a lot when we first started, a lot of things would hurt my feelings. I mean, people would say stuff that wasn't nice, or you'd have a customer that was mad or upset or didn't understand something, and it was a full panic. And now I'm like, you just realize that you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. When it comes to people, people are people. You just, you be nice to them and you explain. I mean, if you just talk to people and you try and figure out if they have right, if you just communicate with people, just 99% of your problems are solved right there. You just have a conversation with people about what's going on and you can figure stuff out. So like when we first started, we're of course developing everything. So it's all kind of a random guess. And it's like, we're putting it out there and somebody says, this is good or this is bad. You take that information, you change what you're doing, and then you send it back out and then you just keep, working your
highly adaptable kind of situation where it's just being two of us. We don't have a lot of, I guess, like attrition with people having to training and everything. It's very streamlined. We say, we sit up at night and we're talking about stuff. And so the next day we actually like implement something or we discuss something. So it's like the way that the enclosures are built is very, very quick, or at least the process is very quick just between two people. You don't have to have meetings. You don't have to go and, send a bunch of memos. It's just my husband and I, that's it.
Yeah. So what do you guys think have been the biggest challenge? Like either you guys working together or being able to make this company really work, because it's not something that a lot of people could do, especially with the type of business that you guys are in.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of taking in this thing as a whole, because people think like, oh, you just make enclosures, so you worry about, how many can you cut a day and how many can you assemble a day, and that is such a teeny tiny part of what we have to do. I mean, you do every single job that a normal business would do, from taking correspondence to accounting to warehouse management. You got to have inventory management. You have to have a production line. You have to have people who can, cut things, assemble things. You have to figure out how to ship things. You have to, procure all the stuff to do those things. You have to coordinate with shipping companies and freight companies. And then you realize that it's just her and I, and we're doing every one of those jobs. So from, buying a screw to negotiating with a freight company, it's like you do every bit of it and all of it in between. So that's kind of the biggest challenge, is actually running the business part of it, not just making stuff. If all I had to do all day was like design enclosures and build prototypes and stuff, it'd be bananas. But you get bogged down on a lot of the business part of it. That's the biggest hurdle, is trying to figure that stuff out and stay on top of it, because it can quickly get out of hand.
Material procurement and dealing with vendors. You'd think that like vendors would have everything, kind of under control, but usually it's like herding cats, trying to give vendors your hard-earned dollars to get materials, but yeah, they're just not on top of it.
Yeah,
so
where's my hardware? Where's my plastic? I bought this stuff, however long ago. What are you guys doing? They're like, what? We didn't submit the PO. It's like, come on. So it's a lot of staying on top of other people. So we can do the best we can, but a lot of it is making sure other folks are doing what they're doing.
Supply chain kind of thing.
Yeah. And especially not because you guys are only dealing with those people outside of your business, getting supplies, things like that, but also people within your business who are wanting to inquire, give you specific dimensions for enclosures. So what is it like, especially people who are like, if you guys would love to, I guess, in the perfect world, just really making, shipping them out, be ready, but also dealing with all these forms of communication while also working specifically on the business?
Yeah, like it takes a lot of time to quote. Like if you had a custom size enclosure, you think you would just like plug it into a calculator or something. Oh, it costs this much. And I'm like, it's really each case is independent. So if we were to quote like a custom job, that takes because I have to kind of quickly sort of mock it up in CAD, make sure it looks like it's going to function like I think, make sure I have all the components that I need. I mean, that can take a couple hours. So when you do that for somebody who's just like, okay, cool, I was just curious, thanks, it's like that's really tough. So you have to kind of, figure out how to quote things quickly because
But
you
be
can get
accurate.
and be accurate too. Yeah, you could miss one critical component and you've underbid a job horrifically, and then you're like, well, now I'm going to lose for the next, however many days it takes to make this thing. So you have to really pay attention. You don't want to overcharge either and scare somebody off like, oh, I think this size should cost this much. And if you just flippantly answer, that's not fair to them because then you've, overbid a job and those people aren't going to buy the thing that they wanted because they think it's too much when really you made one slight, calculation problem and you were way off. And that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, and it's also really scary when when you're dealing with these customers, right? And you're trying to get messages out and that kind of thing, and also they're trying to get those messages extremely quickly when you guys are working in the shop too, which I could imagine is just a headache for you guys.
Well, yeah, that's what he was saying is a lot of times that we do a lot of our messages either our commute to the shop and home from the shop. Now there's times during the day we'll do kind of like a brief message check, but yes, we have a very high volume of messages and emails, and it's something that needs to be checked on, but it also interrupts workflow. But it's this balance of being able to. So I love the social media aspect. Whereas he's the designer. So we kind of like we shoulder different responsibilities within the business. Uh, so when you have a large influx of messages, you want to make sure, like you said, to get to them quickly, but not interrupt the workflow to have already previous customers, like it interrupting the already, I guess, established queue of enclosures. So we have that's a balance there.
Right. So what does that look like for you guys in terms of delegating certain tasks, being able to do that? I know you guys both have strengths and weaknesses and probably balance that out with each other. So is that hard to figure out? And how did you guys figure that out for you guys to be really successful?
Well, as far as like, kind of customer messaging and stuff goes, I like to think about stuff for a little bit. Like if somebody were to ask something or send a message, I'm not trying to immediately just, I'll read it. I don't try and immediately respond because what I could say right off the rip usually is not necessarily correct. So I like to think about stuff for a little bit. And when we give an answer or response, usually it's pretty concise and it's pretty correct. But Ashley, she really wants to get it out quickly. So we kind of have this sort of back and forth where, I don't take, too long to think about stuff, which, for me can take days. Whereas she's kind of like, hey, we need to get to this. And we kind of negotiate back and forth with each other about what we think the right answer would be. And that's usually how we end up responding. So it takes kind of both of us to, kind of communicate back and forth with each other. And we have this like collective decision sort of. So it's not just her or me. You might be talking to, she might be the one just typing, but I'm not just the one who's, dictating what to say. We kind of both have this little negotiation back and forth where we figure out what we think's the right answer for everybody.
Yeah, a lot of times the animal, I guess, aspect is kind of in my realm, and then all design and CAD work and everything that works with the machining and custom quotes, that's all Stephen. So that is a very separate kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, that's
well, yeah. And folks will have like I want all this for one particular animal. I'm like, that is great, but there is some dimensional challenges. You can't fit those things, or the theory that you have doesn't really work because you've never tested it. It's like you think you want all these heating and lighting components in these certain places and these certain screens and vents. And I'm like, all you're doing is making more trouble for yourself. So that's kind of a thing we have to sit down and look at too. Like, you might scale back some of the ideas you're having because they don't perform in reality. So we've tried a bunch of different stuff, and you can kind of, somebody might make a suggestion. You're like, I just don't think that's going to work like you think. And that's a hard thing to tell people too, but
after building thousands of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys know better than these people. And I think one big thing that you guys are seeing, probably a lot more, is especially people trying to do more lighting, more heating, more bioactive things, and really trying to make super awesome, intricate enclosures. But also on the practical side, it's not always so practical. So, what do you guys do when you guys have those situations where like people want just immaculate enclosures, which some of them are, some of them aren't possible just based on the dimensions?
That's very true. That's a great way to put it. It's not a black and white answer a lot of the times. Is like somebody wants something, and I think that that's great. That is definitely forwarding the hobby. It's that people have new ideas, fresh ideas. I'm like, that's something that's very good. But there are limitations, like Stephen was saying, like the actual ceiling space, how many heating and lighting elements they want, what the animal is. So there's no what their climate is. That's a huge deal too. So there's a lot of factors that come into play with it. So there's no. I know a lot of people want a concise answer, say, hey, this is exactly what you need, but there's no, it's a living animal. And it's especially with the more bioactive setups and the setups with different types of heating and lighting, there's no one answer. Um, and so it can be difficult to kind of, I guess, convey that, um, trying to explain, like, we live in a very humid climate. So like somebody looking for something in a very arid climate, with the same thing, it's like, well, you're gonna have to put in some effort to dial in your setup. We can tell you what works here and what has worked in the past for a lot of people because we do converse with a lot of our customers. But it does take effort on your part because every animal's different too. So like their
Right.
personal preferences or whatever, so it's definitely a very not black and white kind of thing.
Yeah, the main thing's to be honest. I mean, if you've not done something before, you probably shouldn't tell somebody this is a great way to do it. I mean, if I don't know something, I'm gonna tell you I don't know. I've never done this. I'm not sure. Or I'm not going to be like I have the perfect setup and I know exactly how to do something because like she says, it varies. I mean, depending where you are in the country, you can have one box in this area, one box in this area, and they do totally different things. I mean, they're just plastic
Yeah.
boxes at the end of the day. So there's a lot more nuance that goes into it, and being able to give just a do this and then that and then this is what happens is kind of nonsense. So you have kind of a general guide like, hey, we've done a lot of this and this is what we've seen happens, or we've had customers who've done these setups and this is what they prefer, which is a lot of what we tell people too. It's like, hey, what do I do for this particular animal? And it's like, this is what a lot of people have ordered from us and they've had good luck with it. So we'll try and go from there. But
Yeah, we
we,
keep a lot of species, but we don't keep, everything that everybody has everywhere.
Right. And I'm sure that like helps Ashley with your animal background and your reptile background, just being able to guide people and help people in that way, especially with enclosures, things like that.
It does help a little bit. Obviously, we're in such a humid climate. A lot of it, it's a lot easier because we mostly keep more, I guess, subtropical species. But when it comes to like the more like arid climates, it's a little bit more difficult because we say, like, well, we've talked with this customer who lives in, say, like Utah. It's a very, very dry area. And so this is what they did because they gave us feedback. And so that's one of the things that's really important to us is we talk with people who have bought our enclosures and our setups and our systems, like our tub systems, and say like what they did to work with their particular animals. And then we can take that feedback and help future people. But it's mostly like Stephen said, it's not exactly like our personal experience. We live in one climate. But we try to, it all comes down to the communication. So we just try to say, hey, this is what somebody else has had good luck with. You may try it, and let us know how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure you guys have gone through lots of different variations of certain kind of enclosures, and just I could just imagine from the start of you guys starting Focus Cube to where you guys are now, you guys are doing things totally differently, and just getting advice, customer feedback, things like that. So, how do you guys use that to kind of drive the business and continue to push it forward?
Well, the trick is to actually listen. I mean, there's everybody has an opinion, but I mean, you can usually tell. Like, if you think this might need improvement, and if somebody has an issue with that thing, you're like, that's something you need to address. So, one of our most popular like models, I guess, is our what's called a Hanger 6. It holds 6 of these Cambro tubs, and the first one I made, basically I just kind of thought about it and I drew it up in CAD and I cut it and I'm like, I'm a genius. This is the best product that's ever been made on earth. We made awesome videos. We showed it off. The first, it was built for a guy local to us. He took it home and basically he got it home a couple days later. This thing sucks. He's like, it's awful. And that freaked me out so bad. We built an obscene amount of prototypes.
Our house was full of them. That's when we were working out of our house at that point.
Yeah, we had them in, like 3 different rooms of the house. I had them stacked. I had them singly. I had them against the wall, away from the wall. I had them with fans on, fans off. And we just...
ready to go.
Well, yeah, we kept trying to figure it out. So just usually, feedback like that makes me, not curl up in a ball and cry, go, boo-hoo me. I figure out, there's a better way to do this. And then you got to burn a lot of plastic. You got to cut a lot of stuff, screw it together and figure out what doesn't work. Our entire upstairs is full of dead prototypes that went nowhere. It's like a creepy museum, but all that stuff is, kind of led us to where we are. And with each iteration, you make something better. You figure out, in the next model, you need to implement those changes in it. So every time we make something, we improve the future products that we make. So, we built, I remember when lead times were like ludicrous, 18 weeks for everything. We would build prototypes and customers would message us and they'd be mad at us. They go, why are you building a prototype when you've not delivered my product yet? And I'm like, because the stuff that I'm going to learn on this thing I'm screwing up right now is going to make your thing better. So just, that's just how we roll. So we keep trying to make new stuff. And if, I find out something, better in between, I'm not afraid to change models. So if we have something on the website, it's not like I've contracted with some, overseas manufacturer and I have, 500 of these things I have to sell before I change anything. If I find out a way that works better, I will change the files and I will cut a new model tomorrow. So we just constantly reiterate stuff that we have and just make it better each time. And if I find something that can be improved, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to just sit there because I already have these CAD files and I don't feel like making new ones and I just keep cutting them. I'm not going to do that. I'll stop. I'll delete all the old stuff and we'll begin again. So we're constantly adjusting and advancing everything that we have. So if somebody says something bad, I'm going to listen to them and I'm going to, try and validate that that's a legitimate concern, which sometimes it is. And then I fix it. We keep rolling.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff we actually use with our personal animals. So that's where a lot of the time comes in is like we create a lot of green tree and gecko and monitor stuff. So it's all tested. That's why we say our animals are our employees.
Oh yeah. The green trees and some of the geckos, those are some real MVPs. I've put them in some bizarre enclosures, some weird conditions, and we see what happens. And so far so good. So
yep.
Yeah, we test as much as we can at the house too. So especially with all the green tree stuff, I mean, that's a real particular crowd. So before I go, hey, this is the greatest thing ever, I'll throw one of my actual animals in there and we'll see what happens. And we've done all kind of wacky stuff with them and they seem to be jamming along. So we keep making stuff.
Can't trust people, but you can trust the animals.
They
tell
100%.
you.
They will not lie.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is going to sound kind of dumb, but like why go through all the pain, all the work to just reach to like one simple enclosure? It's just an enclosure. So like why go through all the pain and all the work of doing that?
I probably have something wrong with me. I don't know how else to describe. I'm a weirdo. I don't know what it is. I can't let it go. If something's wrong or not right or not the best, it really drives me nuts. I guess I have a weird, it's not perfectionism because nothing's ever perfect, but I'm like, if I could have done something better or if I can do it better or if I can do it the best, I'm going to try and do it. So it just, if I know there's something left on the table there to just there's some kind of horrible guilt. I'm like, if I can do better, I should. I shouldn't you can't settle because then you're screwed. That's what happens, man. This stuff is moving so fast. We're learning so much more about how to keep, every different kind of species. If you just go, well, this is what I make, so it's for sale, you're toast, man. You will not survive.
Well, yeah, it's a very actually competitive market, building reptile enclosures, but it's for a long time it's been fairly stagnant, just because people just build a box that it works and it does just fine. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to advance the way that people keep, because like I've been keeping since the 90s, and I think that these animals really one, deserve it, and two, they add a lot of enjoyment to your life. So why not keep them in something that is equally enjoyable, right? So it's more like I know a good I guess analogy is like the aquarium hobby. So a lot of times like it's a no touch, you don't play with your fish, you just look at them. But people, they bring them into their home, they display them in their living rooms, or in I guess populated areas of their home for people to enjoy. And I think that really is where reptiles can be. Now, as a breeder, I understand that there's that side of it too. But I think that bringing the reptiles and amphibians that we're so proud of, like into your home and being a part of your home and a part of your life, I think that the enclosures should match I guess the I don't know, majesty of the animals. I think that
Yeah.
I think it's something that there's a place in the market for people who want that, you know?
Yeah, you can make an enclosure that's made well and also looks good, which is kind of another thing too. I'm big on aesthetics. I think how something looks is also important, or as important as how it functions. So I just see that's kind of been a lacking thing too. It's people make the same square 90-degree cuts. Every box is a box, and then that's the end. It's just this, device that's just a utility. It's just supposed to hold the animal inside. And I'm like, the enclosure is supposed to be part of the whole process too. It's not just don't look at the box. Just there's a thing in there. Just look at the thing in there. And it's like, well, why can't you, enjoy the space that it's in and what's inside? So a lot of these people keep, these things in their home where they're display animals. I'm like, why would you put them in something that's just so, drab and sad when you can actually, have them in an enclosure that's attractive, which usually brings people to the animal, and then they want to know what's going on inside. So we've had a ton of people not even realize what we're selling are enclosures. They have no idea what they are. They think they're 3D printers or something. And so it's like two levels of fun. It's like you get, what is this crazy box? And then you're like, oh, there's something in there, which is what happened to me when I worked my actual regular job. I had built an enclosure when I was still being a finance guy at a motorcycle dealership, and I had it sitting on my desk. People would walk by and they're like, what is that crazy box? And they'd go and look. And I had an Asian forest scorpion in there. And then of course they'd freak out. They're like, there's a crazy pokey bug in this dude's box on his desk at work. And I realized, oh, there's something to this. So you can bring, people just walking by, they see the box, they go, something is weird with that. And then they ask, and then there's a whole nother surprise. So it's like a two-step process. So that you can make a box that looks nice, and that doesn't make the box any less good. So they're two things that work together.
No, that's awesome. And it's a really cool philosophy that a lot of people don't have. And I just wanted to know, like, was it experience? Was it something you guys went through? Like, where did you guys come to that philosophy of like, okay, I don't just have to have a cool animal in a box, in a rack, especially if you only have one. I think you see that so many times at reptile shows now. People are selling racks with just, one compartment for one animal, but really being able to create an experience, not just for you, but also for the animal, to have it in a really amazing setup that's aesthetically pleasing, and also just going to create so much, probably way more joy for the animal as well, being in a great enclosure.
Yeah, well, to me, it's kind of simple. It's like, why not? Why wouldn't you want something that looks good? Why wouldn't you want something that's cool and different? I'm like, that's why is someone acquiring the animal? They're not necessarily 100% just because they're doing, PhD scientific research. It's just cool. The thing is cool. I'm like, okay, so why is your box not cool? It's like, make both things cool. And it's, it's kind of like my contribution, I guess. I'm like, I'm not making the animal, but I can contribute in some way. So here it is. And I think I can do it, pretty radically. And most of these, they're exotic animals. I'm like, why do you have a standard box?
Yeah, I think it's kind of honoring the exotic aspect of what we keep. It's a lot of people, the 90s, it was green iguanas and bearded dragons and everything. But I'm like, each individual animal is special. Like, I don't want to get too woo woo, but like, it really comes down to like, if you're going to keep this, it's a living thing. So it's kind of like honor it with something that's really cool. And I even know, like I do breed the crested gecko, so I know that there's that side of it. But all of my geckos have UVB, or at least my adult geckos have UVB. They're all transferred into larger setups once that they are out of their grow up setups. But it's a lot of, I guess, research and figuring out how to properly keep them in different settings. So you have your pet keepers, you have your people who just keep one or two animals. They want to display them nicely, and then you have your more of your breeders or your boutique breeders who want a setup that is going to be easier as well as aesthetically pleasing, right? So that's kind of like where we've kind of landed in the green tree community. Is a lot of those animals are just absolutely gorgeous animals. There's a lot of different. There's not necessarily morphs, but there's different localities, and people just want to, I guess, honor the animal's beauty. I think it's kind of comes down to that. It's not necessarily like a scientific thing, but I think that a lot of people are very proud of what they produce and what they work with, and keeping them in an enclosure that, one, is functional. It's very easy to keep the animal, the parameters. We do a lot of research with that. But also, like Stephen said, it looks good. It kind of honors how awesome the animal looks.
Yeah, I think I just won a Lamborghini and I can't afford one, so I just make boxes that look like them. So I think that's what's happened. I think we can take back everything we just said. I was thinking about it. I think that's what it is. I'm going to design my own car out of a plastic box.
There you go.
I'm going to get
the Lambo.
Yeah, I'm trying, man.
Yeah, you guys got to just make that like an enclosure. Just call it the Lambo and like have it all decked out and everything.
Yeah, we actually we have a line of enclosures called the Evo series, and that was actually stolen for Lamborghini. So like the little Huracan Evos, nice. I'm like, I cease and desist, send it to me. What are you gonna do?
Right.
Before we go on, I want to say thank you to our sponsors. Impeccable Gecko is a small to mid-sized family-operated hobbyist breeder operation. They specialize in leopard geckos with high-quality genetics. Their goal is to provide customers with the absolute best animals that they could produce, coupled with honest and transparent business methods. At Impeccable Gecko, integrity and animal welfare are above all else. Impeccable Gecko is a strong supporter of the Strength and Leos podcast, so follow them on social media and check out what they have available. John of Gecko Boa started early, like most of us, catching lizards and snakes in his backyard at any chance he got. Over the years, he has kept and bred more than 80 species of reptiles. In recent years, his focus has turned to specializing within the genus Eublepharus. He has worked hard to pioneer some of the most cutting-edge leopard geckos while maintaining genetic purity and honesty. He also keeps the most diverse collection of pure Eublepharus species in the world. He has coordinated with biologists around the world and has contributed DNA sampling and distribution range info to help sort out the cladistic relationships within the genus. Check out geckoboa.com for more info and available geckos. Suburban Geckos is operated by Chris Charlton. Chris's passion and enjoyment for herpetoculture, and more specifically leopard geckos, drove the desire to take his hobby to the next level. With experience in breeding and raising reptiles well over 20 years, Chris is dedicated to producing quality animals for both the hobbyist and breeder alike. Suburban Geckos treats each animal with the utmost care and respect, and cuts no corners when it comes to health and integrity of their geckos. What started off as just a couple aquariums has grown into quite the collection in just a few years, and they wouldn't have it any other way. The dedication to their animals is unparalleled and evident in the quality and health of their animals that they produce. Exemplary customer service is another area where they excel. They're readily available to answer any questions you may have regarding their animals, husbandry, and etc. For more info and to see their availability, check out suburbangeckos.com. Blizzy Bold Leos, while new to the scene, is taking strides in following the footsteps of top-tier breeders and keepers in care and ethics while aspiring to bring fresh looks and crosses to explore latent potential. Prior to becoming a breeder, Greg of Blizzy Bold Leos completed hours of extensive research on lines, ethics, morphs, and how certain traits interact with others in order to begin projects which are coming to fruition already in the second season of breeding. With a major focus on line breeding the correct way and customer service done right, Blizzy Bold Leos aspires to be a breath of fresh air to the customers and keepers they encounter. Be sure to check out their Instagram, Blizzy Bold Leos, and stay up to date on project development, availability, or just tips on having healthy animals in your care. Dab Exotics is a hobbyist breeding operation that was started in 2017. They specialize in producing healthy leopard geckos from top quality genetics. Dab Exotics is an awesome supporter of the Strength and Meals podcast, so follow them on social media and check out what they have available for sale. Shane Kelly is a blue-collar, working-class guy that has a reptile breeding business with his wife and kids. They are currently working with high-quality ball python morphs, western hognose snakes, and select leopard geckos with a focus on bold stripes, and they're looking forward to adding Albie Snow and Ghost this year. They have been listening to the podcast since the beginning and are proud to be a Season 4 sponsor. Go check out their social media, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and also check out their morph market to see what they have available.
You guys are talking with customers, meeting people, things like that. You mentioned the aquarium hobby earlier. Do you guys think more people in the reptile hobby are moving towards that way, or what are you guys saying personally?
It's both ways. I think that a lot of people, so like more individual keepers that are getting, I guess, more like higher end animals. So with the advancement of social media, there's no more, you don't have to rely on fauna classifieds or like price lists or anything like that, more of the like 90s and early 2000s stuff. So now it's readily available information that you get to see like what breeders are producing. There's Facebook groups. There's a lot of what do you call activity within the reptile community that people are able to acquire animals that are not just bought sight unseen, right? So I think that there's a move towards producing more, like you were saying earlier, like bioactive setups, more naturalistic setups that are like planted and they have like the Universal Rocks background. It's people that are like more scaping their setups. But there's also the side of the hobby that is just content with keeping more animals within, you know, a room. And so they just want to have like uniformity. They don't really necessarily want to have their animal in their living room or anything like that. It's more like they want the reptile room. So I think that's it's moving towards more aquarium like keeping, but there's also still the aspect of that it's been since, you know, for a long time. It's a very slow moving progression. But I think that we definitely are moving towards, in all aspects, better keeping. So there's more technology, there's more knowledge, especially like I said with the social media. There's more access to knowledge. Now there's also more access to more opinions that aren't based on knowledge. So that's the other side of it. But there's always two sides to the story. But I think that overall that yes, especially with the advancements in like UVB and heating and research with that, I think that there's a lot of positive movement towards more aquarium like keeping.
Yeah, I think they're headed towards each other. I think it attracts the same kind of person. I mean, to keep a fully planted setup just dialed perfectly right for a reptile is rather, it's not without its challenges, and so is keeping,
it's time.
Right. Yeah. Well, a lot of attention to detail, which I think of a lot of aquarium guys are very much focused on. So I think they're kind of headed towards the same way. So as, reptile keeping seems to be a little less utilitarian day by day, I think those interests are starting to collide. So I think that kind of personality is finding its way somewhere in between.
Yeah. And with that, like what you guys do, like how do you help people like be on that journey? I think people who go to you guys see not just that you guys produce amazing closures, but you guys really care about the animals and really put the animals first. So how are you guys really helping people get to like, okay, I have a crested gecko. I don't really know what kind of enclosure I should get, how elegant it should be. How do you guys get people from that point to, having an enclosure in their living room?
Well, a lot of it comes down to, like we said, basing it off of, we have our own experiences, but like what other customers have experienced. So we say what the average person, you don't really know what their skill level is, right? So like we've been keeping since the 90s. This person may have just got their first crested gecko a month ago. So you really have to take into account what experience the person has and not overload them with a ton of information. Now, if they ask pointed questions, yes, it's easy to answer those questions like, hey, like what live plants do you use in your setups or anything like that. But if somebody's just approaching you with like, hey, what's the best setup? there's really, that's that gray area. There is no one best setup. It's based on how much experience you have, how much time you're willing to invest, and really, like the space available. There's a lot of different aspects, and that's what's really, I don't know. I guess the positive part of working with us is like we do kind of take that, and we're not pro sales. We're not just going to say, oh, this is the best setup, this is what you need, because if you do that and you send it out and the person's not ready for it, or they don't have the knowledge for it, then they're going to have a bad time, and their animal's going to have a bad time. That's as simple as it gets. Where you're really trying to make the best experience for the keeper and the animal. So there's like this balance of offering information, but saying, like, hey, here's some resources that you can look into to see what you're comfortable with. So like one of the manufacturers that we work with is Arcadia. And so, they offer different UVB options and different heating options. We say we have this whole support tab on the website that allows people to go through and say, hey, this is something that I may be comfortable with. Like if I know, if somebody's worked with, for example, ceramic heat emitters, we can say, well, hey, the Arcadia Deep Heat's very similar. It doesn't have as much of a high surface temp. And that's something that's actually popular for the leopard geckos, is like more in the 90s and early 2000s was the ceramic heat emitter, on top of an aquarium. But
Right.
now in a lot of PVC enclosures, and more modern enclosures, they're moving towards the deep heat, like that doesn't emit light. So we offer, information that they can check that out and say, hey, go check this out. If this is something that you're interested in, we can say, like where we usually install it within the enclosure and kind of work with you there. But we try to give people the tools to figure out what they're comfortable with first, and then they can come to us and say, what kind of setup that they're really interested in.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I feel like it's cool that you guys are meeting people where they're at. There's so many websites and so many companies now. As you guys mentioned before, it's a very competitive market. Like you guys are the only ones doing enclosures, but I think you guys are really the only people in the industry who are meeting people where they're at and are willing to work with them on that journey to getting the perfect enclosure that I think that they want in their house, in their facility, and really being able to find out what they want and being able to deliver specifically based on what their needs are, which I think is really awesome.
Yeah, and for a lot of people too, like I mean, there are a lot of them are already keeping in like an Exoterra. So instead of telling you need to buy an entire new setup and start over, I mean, we produce those replacement tops for Exoterra. So for a lot of people, that's all that they need.
They can take steps too.
Right. They don't have to go full bore into this new giant ridiculous setup. It's like maybe you're having some humidity concerns, or maybe you can't, install the heating and lighting that you wanted because there's just a screen on top. I'm like, at the end of the day, all you might actually need is just a top for the current enclosure that you have and just work from there. So you don't have to go bananas right away. So like a lot of new people, you can kind of slowly work them, up, I guess, as they get more comfortable with keeping a particular species, just, one step at a time. You don't have to immediately overwhelm them with a banana setup.
So with most of the people that you guys work with, do you guys feel like it's more experienced people, more beginners, more people in the middle? Where do you guys see that gradient with people that work with you guys?
Oh, it's all over the place.
Yeah,
we
it
have
really
some
is.
people who, will tell you they've done this for 20 years and they know everything. And then you'll have somebody who'll message you right after that who's just like, I bought an animal, I have no idea what I'm doing. I mean, it's literally it's the full spectrum, man.
Wow.
And each situation has its own challenges, but yeah, new people, they usually will like listen to advice and they'll kind of, try and look around and learn from themselves. So you try and point them in the right direction. You try and tell them the things that you know. And then, sometimes
just give them tools,
yeah,
the resources.
right. Cause like you say, there's no 100% right answer. There's, there might be a very generic way that you might have to try just to make sure that you don't, cause harm to your animal in the, immediate interim, and you try and steer them that direction if they really have no idea what's going on. But, we try and keep new people to simple setups that are hard to mess up, and you work them up from there. I'm not going to immediately try and throw somebody in a gnarly situation that they can't figure out. They're overwhelmed with the electronics, the heating and lighting components. I mean, you'd be stunned how many people can't figure out how to operate a thermostat. So we spend a lot of time having to explain those kind of things when, that's not we didn't make the thermostat, but we're trying to tell you how to operate it in the box. So you're not,
Right.
a lot of those, you can email a lot of these manufacturers and you're not going to hear anything back. So it's like, okay, here's how to think about what this device is and go from there. And then you've got some people who are pros who tell you, I need this, this, and this, send it. So you really get all in between.
Yep.
Yeah. So you
For
just try and
bring
guide.
it back to the car analogy, people are like, you guys provide the car, and then people are asking what kind of gasoline to put in it, like how to take care of the car kind of thing.
Yep. You're
Yeah.
right on there.
Yeah, which you should have a general guide to help people along the way. But I'm like, I can't sit next to you in the passenger seat the entire time you're driving the car and yank the wheel, every time you do something silly. So it's like this is something you have to be able to do a little bit on your own. And if somebody's selling you a box that basically they say, put the animal in there, turn the thermostat on and you never worry about it again. I'm like, be very wary. I mean, there's a lot that happens in between. So at this point, there's a lot of driving you need to do in the middle. But we're kind of working on that. I don't know if you've seen that like heretic model that we have, but it's a 4x2 by what?
4x2 by 3?
4x2. No, how tall is it? It's a 4x2 by 4.
No, it's a 3x2 by 4.
Okay, yeah.
That's taller than it is wide.
I can't even remember how tall it is.
We have so many models.
Yeah, and it's basically a self-contained enclosure. So it has a stand below it that has a system that essentially it's got a probe inside the enclosure that monitors the ventilation. It has a fan that cycles on and off, and it actually pulls the air out of the enclosure and it dries it out. We've got a mist king attached to it that mists periodically. So, and it's a fully planted bioactive setup that we've got a green tree in, and this thing operates itself. So Snake has perfect sheds. He's got no issues. The heating is dead on in there. It's ridiculous. I mean, we don't do anything to it except change the water every couple days. Yeah. I mean, it is
great hands off.
So I'm like, okay, there's a way to do this, to automate enclosures that, not that you don't have to do anything, but the enclosure does a lot of the work itself and you just kind of monitor things. So I think there's a future in making those things, but it's just trying to figure out how to do it right where it's easy to operate and, most people understand what's going on. So that's been a really fun project that we're working on. So we have the second iteration in the house now. So we're fixing to get it fired up and start testing it too.
Yeah, we've probably been doing it, 6 months now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
with the first one.
Lots of prototype testing before we actually release it. But yeah, those are kind of some of the things that happen in the background, is just trying to figure out like keeping better and easier potentially. But there's a lot of testing involved.
Definitely. Yeah, you guys are going to have more rooms to fill things up with prototypes and get those ready.
Yeah, I'm sure next podcast we do is the whole back wall is going to be full of.
This was this week's mistakes,
Just switch out every week.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot of attrition there.
Nice. Well, I know another thing that you guys have been just really doing is you guys are, those people who are on the grind trying to do as much as they can, but you guys have also built really amazing enclosures for a lot of great people. Reach for Reptiles is one who've used your control.
I got the shirt on. Garrett's shirt, yeah.
Yeah, using the cages for that. And then also Justin over at Canova, you guys have been doing enclosures with them. So what has it been like to really handle the growth that you guys have been doing and really working on to these people who have these big facilities and big audiences and being able to keep up with that and reach their demands as well?
Well, every time, folks like that message you or something, you're kind of confused. You're like, what is this? Isn't real. Like I remember the first time that I think Justin just bought an enclosure on our website.
Yeah, it's for his monitor.
Yeah, we were living, and working out of the house, and I'm
24/7 basically.
The computer was in the bedroom, and I'm like, oh, an order came in, and I was going to print it and do all this stuff, and I looked, and I'm like, Justin Kablowka. And I'm like, I've seen this before. I know this name. And I ran in there and showed Ashley, and she's like, holy crap. So, of course, we went bananas on that one, pulled out all the stops, built, I don't know how many prototypes we built for his first, he had a monitor enclosures for a little teeny tiny baby.
Yeah,
it was one of our
hatchling
panorama models. And we dialed that thing in perfect for, a teeny tiny juvenile monitor. And I think that, I guess he realized that we put that much effort into just one box from a random guy who bought something, and trusted us to build the rest of the stuff eventually. And of course, all the social media helps too. It's like we show up every day when we're actually trying, so it's not like I'm trying to figure out how to do this cheaper so I can get more money. It's like, how do we do this the best way that we can? And I think people see that in the stuff that we do. So I think that's helped with those guys. And of course, same thing with, reach out. It's like we're really trying to make good stuff. Those guys need, they want good enclosures. They want good products. And of course they're trying to, I guess I should probably test us out at the same time. Are we, full of crap or not? And we really do try. So I think they see that we're actually giving it our all. We're not just trying to cut corners and see if we can be more profitable than the next guy. We're trying to make cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think even just being able to get those people to see that, it's like if those are some of the best people in the industry who are getting your enclosures, that's probably like a amazing kind of pat on the back for you guys, and awesome to have that experience where you guys are being able to kind of prove yourself almost to these people from the product you guys are producing.
Yeah, it's been totally surreal. It's not, we don't like try and reach out to people and see if we can do like an affiliate deal or like, hey, I'll hook you up on these if you say my name. I'm like, we really just try and make good stuff. And if it's good, hopefully they'll buy it and they like it. And if they don't like it for some reason, hopefully they tell us. So we literally just try and do.
We try to be very open.
We just try and do good. I mean, that's if you stray from that, I think people are going to sniff it out real quick. I think you just have to do the best that you can, and hopefully people recognize it. And hopefully the best that you can is actually good too.
Yeah,
so that's the other end of it. So you could try real hard and still stink. So so I feel half the time that's why I was prototypes everywhere.
I remember when we were working with Summer and Justin on their order, and we actually went over there to Georgia from Texas, and we delivered it. And we drove, 12 hours through the night?
It was a long time. Yeah, it was a long time.
We drove 12 hours through the night straight, delivered the enclosures, set them up, chatted with everybody. And Justin was very gracious and, wanted to invite us for dinner with everybody, all the team. And we were like, we got to drive 12 hours home. We're doing it straight. So it's kind of one of those things where we did that. We went there, we delivered, we, kind of hung out with them a bit, but it's like, it's always, we're always back to the grind. It's definitely something that we are always trying to develop and continue with. So there's really no downtime.
Yeah. I'm like, there were boxes waiting. I'm like, I got to drive home. I got to do this again tomorrow, man.
Yep.
Wow.
So it was pretty intense there, but that
place
really
was cool. That was pretty neat. That was a neat experience. So hopefully we can get up there and harass Garrett one of these days. So he's a little further.
Yeah, Pennsylvania's a little bit farther, but Yeah,
we did buy a snake from him, so I expected VIP tour.
There we go.
Yeah. All that stuff.
Right. Yeah, you guys gotta figure out a way to get there in 12 hours. Just speed
just
down.
drive. When I get my Lamborghini, man, let me tell you, we're gonna get there so fast.
There you go. That's the reason you got to get it. It's right off. It's right off.
I can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put a sticker on the side. It's for advertising. See how fast we can get there.
Yeah. See,
so many snakes we can put in it. Dude, I'm way ahead, man.
Yeah.
Never stops up here.
Yeah. Okay. We're getting the Lamborghini. What color is it going to be?
Oh God. As much as I'd want to have some obnoxious, awful color, I totally think one of those cars in a very sedate white and black would be the way to go. It's the most offensive thing you've ever seen, but the color combo is so understated. You're just the coolest dude both ways.
Yeah, it's bold.
You have the thing and then you don't care. Yeah.
You guys got to keep buying enclosures so they can get this Lambo.
I think if I sell 8 billion more, I can make one payment on one. So just, please click now.
You guys heard it here first.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, if I work till I'm 800 million years old, I can get one. Thank you.
Right. No sleep.
I don't need that either.
Yeah, if you have a Lambo, you're working towards something.
Right, exactly. But then it's once you get the Lambo, what's next?
I retire. I'm just going to live in it. It's over.
Yeah. I'll be home.
It's got 2
transportation.
seats. Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Throw the geckos in the back.
Yeah. We'll hose off in the yard.
Or in the front, actually. It's rear engine or mid-engine.
Nice. Well, guys, in terms of what's the vision for the future? I want to know what's next on the horizon for you guys 5 years from now. What is Focus looking like?
Well, a lot of what we're doing now is trying to essentially scale
and streamline.
Yeah, kind of as leanly as possible. I'm like, everybody's like, just hire people. And I'm like, well, that doesn't necessarily make anything more efficient. You just have more people running around bumping into each other. So we'd like to continue to make a wide variety of enclosures. So it's not like you just want to go one particular direction. Like we're just going to make, fast, simple, cheap, or not necessarily just going to make the world's most, high end, super unobtainium stuff. So we want to try and help as many people as possible, but do it in a way that doesn't just go ahead, just bog the whole system down. So, what we figured out a lot of the time is when you do every little custom one-off thing, it just puts the brakes on the whole production. So what you have to do is we're kind of figuring out what people want the most of and just kind of steer that direction. So there's few enclosure sizes, there's several enclosure options that most people, want again and again.
Majority, yeah.
Right. You can tell most people are going to want this thing. So we make sure that we have the materials and the files and stuff set up so we can get those things out quickly, so that it's not such a big burden for us to do a weird custom wild one-off job. So that allows us to help the majority of people while still being able to,
it's the balance,
to try and help the hyper custom stuff. So the super custom stuff's really fun, but it's a huge drain on me, and my time is already limited. So it's really tough to do that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping we can streamline the majority of our orders over here so that I can do a bunch of silly stuff over here.
Yeah, so, especially with the shipping aspect, like you imagine it's a box that has to be put within a box. So if it's a custom size or a custom order, that's, it's already a bog there. So that's where, he does all the designing and machining, where I do a lot of the social media and shipping and, disassembly, which it's all of our enclosures are most of the time flat packed. We do freight quite a bit of stuff, but it's the double. Everything we have is pre-assembled and then disassembled. So it's a double process. And that's one of the reasons why I think that a lot of people don't realize that, like, just two people doing that, if you have a lot of orders that are assembled, they still need to be disassembled and shipped. So there's a queue and a process to everything. And we're, like Stephen said, it's mostly just streamlining and making things more efficient. There is trying to, I guess, the supply chain. This is a business that was started during COVID. So that was one of the reasons why a lot of the lead times went insane for a lot of enclosure manufacturers and pretty much everybody, honestly, is just material availability. And now that we're, kind of getting over that hump a little bit, there's still definitely hurdles there still, because we do use a lot of American-made products, which is difficult, especially, price-wise and procurement. But finally, we're kind of getting over that hump. So that's one of the reasons why our lead times continue to lower, even though we have a higher order volume, and just the two of us. So it's the balancing act, as always, is trying to get the right amount of materials and predict how many orders you're going to get and not over purchase where you need to put money elsewhere. But also the time involved in each enclosure, like Stephen said, with certain custom aspects, is it just bogs down the whole system. So we're just, long story short, trying to streamline, be more efficient, and just work with the two of us as being able to balance everything.
Yeah, and at a certain point, I mean, you're going to have to hire people. I mean, it's just, there's only so many hours in the day. And that's one of those things I try to take very seriously. I don't want to just find some help and promise them, this is you're going to be your future. And then if, something slows down or the economy eats it, and then, I don't want to have to go fire somebody and tell them good luck, get out. So it's something I take really seriously, inviting somebody into this. I want to do it. I want to do it the right way. I don't want to drag somebody along for, however long and then have to just right away cut them loose. So I want to make sure that we've got everything so dialed that it's not going to be an issue.
Yeah.
And right now we're still developing and, designing enclosures. I'm so wishy-washy on keeping certain products on hand or keeping certain models available. I want to make sure I've got what we have so dialed that there's not going to be hardly any adjustments that need to be made. So I'm going to struggle until then. And, she's going to struggle right there with me until we get it figured out. And then we'll just be going full bore. So I don't want to take any of this too lightly.
Yeah.
Is it even possible to get it even all figured out?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. Yeah. It's like, when do you know? And I'm like, oh boy, at what point? And it's like, yeah,
there's a lot of anxiety that we've gone through, is, the sleepless nights. And a lot of that is just, you just have to it's a lot of chance. You just kind of, as people that we're very particular, and it's really tough to kind of like let go of that. But sometimes you just have to say, like, it's going to be what it's going to be. You can't control everything. And you try to do, I know this sounds like a cop out, but you really just try to do the best that you can. And you work with people because everybody's different. People are people, and everybody's going to have emotions and feelings, and we're working with living animals. So I'm like, I think that not being super rigid is a really good thing. And that's one of the things that we, in our early years of being with Focus Cubed, is, we're trying to be a certain way all the time. And I'm like, it's not really that way. You just have to kind of flow with the people that you're working with, and just be honest. Like Stephen said, you just got to be, human to human. We're all, interested in keeping reptiles, and life's tough, and you got to kind of roll with everything and work with everybody. And I think that's really is just being genuine, and being honest about everything. We're always talking about, some of our struggles. And I know a lot of the people who keep the animals, they talk to us about their struggles and what they're working with. And we're like, well, this might have helped. A little bit of a tangent there, but I think it's just communication. I think it's really what it comes down to, is just being open with people, and accessible, in so much as there's 24 hours in a day. You can only be so accessible. But yeah, I think for the most part, it's just working towards a better keeping experience for everyone, including, ourselves. We're always trying to push the envelope and do better.
Yeah, and it must be kind of a pain, even especially with supply chain stuff, like having to rely, like your business basically relying on someone else having certain kind of materials. And I could just imagine the anxiety that causes for you guys sometimes, and having certain things and not being able to deliver on certain things because, that's just such a big issue sometimes.
Yeah, well, fortunately, we've managed to stay barely ahead of the curve every time. So we've never run out of anything. We've never been like, oh crap, we can't fulfill something. It's just
it's been driving 600 miles sometimes to get the materials, but we make it happen.
Yeah. We've driven a long way for just a couple of sheets of plastic. So it's just, you just can't fail, man. But we've got a buddy who comes and actually helps us out every now and then. He'll come on like a Saturday and help, screw some stuff together, and it makes a world of difference. So whenever you see that happen, you're like, man, just think if this dude was here every day.
All the time. I'm like, we'd be able to do everything so fast.
Yeah.
But it's right. Having somebody's, I guess, the responsibility of somebody else there all the time. And it's definitely, it's an ebb and flow with a small business. It's like we were talking about in the beginning of the podcast, is working with your suppliers. Sometimes you got to be on them, like you think that they want to take your money for the materials that they offer, but sometimes they don't get back to you for a week. And we're like, hello. I mean, we want to make this order now. Like, where are you at? Oh, he's got it buried in the email, So you got to kind of stay on top of people. And that's the thing that I guess where Stephen was coming at is, we together can deal with that, but having somebody else be responsible for that, that's a big step. So making sure that, we kind of have all that under control and can deal with that. 'Cause like, we're willing to deal with a little bit more than somebody who's just coming in, 9 to 5 and doing a good job. So it's just like keeping, it's all about being responsible. So yes, we do eventually want to expand and hire people, but it has to be the right kind of environment, I guess. That sounds kind of silly, but it's kind of like keeping, you want to make sure that you're dealing with somebody's, their income, and their family life and everything. So I think it's a big step that a lot of people, maybe we're taking it a little too seriously, but I think if that's part of kind of our ethos is doing the right thing. So I think that we are going to expand in the next 5 years. We've definitely expanded our shop equipment, and that has really helped. So that's only been in the last 5 months. And that has helped tremendously. Now, it bogged us down originally when we got the equipment delivered because we had to transfer everything over. But now we're starting to, like I've been posting on the social media, we're really starting to get into our stride and back running again, with the new equipment. So really just expanding as the keeping community expands. I think that we will try to just keep pushing the envelope and doing good things.
Yeah, and it's a big order to come up to. I think I see that with so many other companies in the reptile industry. So many people who've been doing it so long just by themselves and really taking that next step to get more help, even if it's part-time help. People just, it's such a struggle for someone to just really get that passion and being able to give that to someone else and making sure that they're as passionate about what you guys are passionate about in striving the company forward. It's one thing to just have someone who is working for money, but for someone to be as passionate about exposures as you guys are and really care about the things that you guys are doing and pushing that envelope, that's two totally different people that you're looking at right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's well said.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
100% it, man.
Yep.
It's scary. Yeah, once you guys find that person, you guys got to hold on.
Yeah.
That's a very specific type of person, and they're out there somewhere.
Yeah, our buddy who helps us, I'm trying to figure out how to get him fired from his job. So I go like plant some evidence at work at something. So he'll have to come work with us.
Yeah, he actually. So we used to work together. I was a supervisor in the I guess it was a collision center that I used to work at, and he worked with me. And so he's come and worked with the enclosures, and everybody always jokes with him. He's like, when are you going to go work for them? And he's like, oh, but he just had
I'll get him fired.
He had his first son, so he's been a little bit absent lately, but congrats
slacker.
to him.
He has a kid. And he's suddenly busy.
Oh, this kid, so much work.
Yeah.
You got to get the Lambo, you got to bring it over, and then you just got to start revving the engine and then say,
I'll let the kid drive it. I
Yeah,
don't care. Take off, man.
Yeah. Oh, sold.
in the car.
Yeah.
It's got AC.
Get the touchscreen going.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Keep
Yeah.
him busy. Yeah, you can sit there
Right.
all day. That sounds like a great plan. I like it.
I know. Get the apps, and like with the cars these days, it's like wild.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you guys coming onto the podcast, really being able to just share what you guys are all about to the people on the podcast, and really appreciate you guys just giving your time to sharing all the great information you guys have, but then also just sharing your passion and what you guys are all about.
Yeah, you too. Appreciate you being patient with us. I know that it's been kind of a wild ride the last couple months, but we finally made it happen barely today, but I'm glad we made it. And It's actually really fun. I enjoy talking to people who are so passionate about stuff. And I really like what you're trying to do on your podcast and the people you bring on. And it, just like anything, it takes a lot of time. And that's, I think people really need to appreciate that.
For sure. Yeah. Now, before we let you guys go, we're going to do a few quick round questions. So we're going to split you guys in two separate teams. So we're going to go with Ashley first. You guys ready for the questions?
Let's go.
All right. So, Ashley, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Entree or dessert?
I'll go with entree. I like steak.
Okay. TV or books?
Audiobooks. Does that count?
Oh, yeah, I'll put that in there.
Okay, definitely audiobooks then.
iPhone? Okay, nice. iPhone or Android?
Android.
Whoa,
this is great.
Kind of controversial.
Yeah, well, that's what we're currently recording on is an Android. I know Garrett was making fun of us that we don't have an iPhone.
It ain't failed once either.
Yeah. I drop it a lot. Still kicking.
Yeah, it's her 8th one or something.
Oh, stop.
Okay, sorry, I'm not supposed to talk.
It's my turn.
You're not actually coming up, Steven. Are you a summer person or a winter person?
I say summer. I love jet skis.
Okay. Western or Eastern Texas?
West Texas.
Okay. Nice. On a reptile stuff, are you a lizard person or a snake person?
Oh, I definitely like the things with legs. I love monitors. I like snakes too. Lizards. Number one.
Okay. Cages or racks?
Of course, enclosures.
Nice. And then last question, what's your favorite reptile morph of all time?
Big question there, but I would have to say the black dragon water monitors.
Ooh, those are awesome.
Yeah,
It's
they're
like a
simple
dinosaur.
but awesome. Yeah, I just love it.
Sweet. Steven, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What do you think of those answers?
I think they were all correct. There's not a lie spoken there. I could have answered all. You could have asked me. I'd have told you all that.
Okay, well, you're next. We're gonna do a few the same, a few different ones. So.
Okay.
So you're an early bird or a night owl?
Dude, I am not an early bird. I don't know if I'm an old man. I'm like, I operate from like 10 to 4 or something. So I'm like a noon guy,
I
I
was
guess.
curious what you're going to answer
Noon
there.
guy.
Yeah. I don't do much of either, man.
Okay. Are you a coffee or tea person?
Coffee. I don't. Yeah, 100%.
Well, you're not waking up early, so you need the coffee for it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, tea. I'm not zen enough for tea, I don't think.
It takes too much time.
Nice. Are you iPhone or Android?
Oh, Android. I don't.
Man,
Just iPhone's too establishment. I'm too hard headed. I have to do what you're not supposed to do.
man. I'm with Garrett on this one. We gotta move you guys over. Are you guys are you Nike or Adidas person?
A Nike dude. Yeah, they have silly
Okay.
colored stuff. I like them. Yeah.
Nice. For the reptiles, are you a legged person or snakes?
Oh, I'm anti-leg. The amount of work is just reduced by like an infinite factor. I don't know, orders of magnitude less work. They're so much easier and they're still as much fun. I mean, yeah, I like the slithery ones.
Okay, nice. Are you a streaming person or do you guys like the old TV?
Oh dear
Cable
God,
TV?
there's every TV in the house is connected to a computer. People come over, they're like, I didn't know you could connect your TV to a PC. I'm like, this is a dude that watches TV. He goes home and turns on the television and sees. Oh, that's crazy. No, it's streaming. It's YouTube.
Nice.
And it's sleeping in the chair while watching it because I'm not a morning owl or a night owl or whatever.
You're that noon guy.
Yeah, I'm the noon. If it's afternoon,
Noon
I'm
guy.
I'm drooling in the chair.
We had to add as one of the options. I've never heard of that before. Are you a spring or fall person?
Ooh, fall, 100% fall.
Okay.
That cool
Favorite
air,
restaurant in
those changing
Texas?
colors. Ooh, I'm all in. Yeah, I love going to
Nice.
Colorado. What is it, like the first week of October? Ooh la la.
Mm.
Perfect.
Sweet. Favorite restaurant in Texas?
Favorite restaurant? Oh boy. God, I don't know I don't know. What is what is it? The Waller County Line Barbecue. It's a gas station, and they got some banger baked potatoes.
Really?
Yeah, what is it? The Waller County Line.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, it's a gas station, and they rip.
They are phenomenal. Yeah, we'll have to
Wow,
post a
gas
picture of
station
them
baked
sometime.
potatoes.
Yeah, well, they've got a bunch of smokers around back. It's nuts.
It's legit barbecue.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Really?
Yep.
Man, only in Texas.
Yeah, yeehaw.
And I'm gonna ask you the same question. Favorite reptile morph of all time?
You know, for a guy, I guess, who likes legless animals, the black dragon is still cool. When you see that thing she's got, he's gnarly. He's just, the thing's ridiculous. He's so cool. He's so stoic. He's gigantic, and he's just one. I mean, he's just black. He's just one solid color. It just is. It's so cool. It's just neat that thing exists on Earth.
Melanistic man.
Yeah.
No, it's legit like a dinosaur.
Yeah, I mean, he did
Yeah.
like that. And I guess dinosaurs are like birds. I mean,
They
it's
look
hilarious
at you in a certain way.
Yeah, you'll watch, like a bird, and I'm like, this is the same freaking thing. This just has way less feathers. They're looking around at you the same way.
Their eyes dilate.
Yeah, they got the same processing power. Just one can slap you with its tail, the other one can fly away.
Hopefully the black dragon doesn't fly.
Nice
away.
guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hopefully the black dragon's not the flying one, and we have a whole new problem in this house.
Right, yeah. Or breathe fire. That'd be a real dragon.
There you go. Yeah. none
I'm
of
not
those
going to tell
things.
the insurance company. Not at all, man.
Right. So that's too much paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So if people want to get in contact with you guys, reach out, get in enclosure, amazing focus cube enclosure. How would they do that?
Well, we do have the website, which has, like we said, a lot of the support. It has the shop. You can take a look at all the models that we offer. It has a lot of Q&A, a lot of FAQ.
You can get lost on that thing. Just
There's a
look at
lot
stuff all
of
day.
lot of information on there, and that's why we can easily point people towards that. So it's focuscubedhabitats.com. And any of the social media is going to be Focus Cubed Habitats. We've got that on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
That you can kind of keep up with the daily, coming and goings of what we got going on. And if you like want to see something and you're not absolutely like you see an option and you're not 100% sure what it looks like or how it works, if you go to YouTube and you search us there too, she's got a bunch of videos that kind of break down a lot of different enclosures, and she does walkthroughs and shows you what all the, accessories, a lot of the placement, a lot of the options, what they actually look like on one. So you can kind of get a real feel for what's going on instead of just having to dream it up in your mind.
Yeah, more visual field than just reading text. So we try to do everything. So
right, which is it's hilarious. People when they have an enclosure that's on order, they look every day until they see it pop up, and they're so excited. They're the first person to comment on YouTube like that was mine. It happens all the time. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff out there to look at. So you can.
So Focus Cute Habitat's basically everywhere.
Dive in it.
Awesome. You guys have awesome Q&As on your YouTube too for people who want, that too. It's just tons of great stuff you guys have.
Yeah, we're trying. If there's more hours in the day, we do more stuff. So
now that we have the podcast stuff set up, we're planning on doing some more things there. So
it's cool to do some more Q&As. Those were actually kind of fun.
Yeah, people have a lot of great questions like you did. It's really fun to like kind of have a different take of what people think, and then
you can stump me on the spot. I can go like, oh, I don't know. You watch me get real nervous real fast. So,
me, I just have the blank face, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah.
That'll be its own segment.
Yeah. Blank face Ashley.
Already, man, trademark that, get some shirts going.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I wouldn't have to get my own shirts.
Yeah, throw that away. You don't need that.
Yeah.
We'll tell Garrett.
Sweet, guys. So again, I apprate you guys coming on the podcast.
Yeah, man.
See you guys next time.
Appreciate
Thanks
the invite.
for having us. Yeah. Whenever, man.
Of course. Yeah. Well, have a great one.
All right. You too, man.
We'll see ya.